Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon. Today we're going to talk about, I guess in this video, we're going to talk about more properties of exponents. This is section 5.2, properties of exponents. So we're going to talk about just properties of exponents. So remember in the previous section we talked about the basic rules of exponents and basic rules of exponents. If we're talking about basic rules of exponents, I suppose we'll just talk about B. Hang on a second. Let's see if we can make blue. B to the nth power equals b times b times b, all the way b, and we've got n of these multiplied together, n of those bases multiplied together. Again, b is the base, n is the exponent. So today in this section we're going to talk about the power rule of exponents, and we're going to find out what that is. So let's take a look at just some basic terminology, I guess. If we had that x squared, just from our basic definition is x times x. X is our base. Squared means we multiply that x base times itself 2 times, so there's our x times x. And what we could do is we could take this x, instead of writing x squared, we could write it with parentheses around it and say, you know what, there's our base. X is our base, 2 is the exponent working on the x, and we multiply it twice by itself, x times x, and there's our base. But what if we said, if we take that x and we said, let's call it something different. Let's call it maybe y cubed. If we call it y cubed and put that y cubed inside those parentheses, so now instead of going here, we're down here, we're saying now let's call it y cubed in here. And we're just really simply taking something else and saying instead of x squared, we're saying it's y cubed squared. What happens? Let's find out what happens. So y cubed would be our base. The 2 squared is our exponent, so we've got y cubed, our base, and it's squared. So what we're doing is we're saying over here is the longhand that we're doing it. I'm saying this y cubed squared is y cubed times y cubed, and there's our base, times our base again, and it's squared because we got 2 of them, so there's y cubed times y cubed. And now we've kind of just written it from our shorthand over here to our longer form over here. But now we've got y cubed times y cubed, and we know what y cubed is. Well, here's our base, here's our exponent, and we're going to take this y cubed and write it over here as y times y times y. And we're going to take this y cubed here and write it as y times y times y. So we're just really just rewriting that green one over here as the green one, the black one as the black one. And what happens then? We've got y times y times y times y times y times y, and we've got 6 y's, and we can write it as a shorthand of our y to the 6th power. So we started with y cubed squared, and we went through a bunch of steps, and we got to y to the 6th power. So the shortcut is right down here. Y cubed squared, our base squared, becomes y to the 6th power. So what's our rule? What's the relationship between these? Well, we're going to find out that when we have parentheses, we can multiply the inside exponent by the outside exponent to get y to the 6th power. And there's a mnemonic device that you'll have to remind me to tell you about. It has to do with hands and crossing over your hands to make an X to say that you're multiplying. But when you've got parentheses, you can multiply the exponents. So right down here is our power rule for exponents. So if you're looking to write a cheat sheet or a study guide, and keep in mind we won't be able to use cheat sheets on the test, but if you're making a study guide, here's our something that might want to go on that study guide, the power rule for exponents. So assume that b is a base. It's a real number. M and n are positive integers. Then b to the mth power inside parentheses to the nth power outside gives us b to the m times n. And I recommend using, again, 3 and 2, because 3 and 2 added up become 5. But 3 and 2 multiplied together becomes 6. So you can go through this if you get stuck on a test and you don't know what the rule is. Go through something like this: y cubed squared. Go through the long way. Here's y cubed times y cubed, and y cubed is this, y cubed is this, and then y cubed squared becomes the green, the black becomes the black, and we get the y to the 6th power. So use 2 and 3 to kind of get you through that mnemonic device to kind of get an idea about what to do with them. and what the rule is. Let's go to the next page and just kind of try to use some of these examples. Let's simplify using the power rule. I'm going to do the first one, and you guys can do the next couple. S to the fourth squared. So s to the fourth is in parentheses. This is our base, and this is our exponent. So what are we going to do with those? We're going to, again, multiply the exponents. When we have parentheses, we can multiply the exponents. So this becomes s to the 4 times 2 power equals s to the 8th power. And we could go through the longhand of saying it's s to the 4th times s to the 4th. And then s to the 4th is s times s times s times s. And then this s to the 4th is s times s times s times s. And you multiply them all together, and you get s to the 8th power, and there's our answer here. So, with that said, I'm going to suggest pausing the video and then do those yourself, and then see what you come up with. All right, now that we've got these done, I guess, in your own mind, this one, again, should be 3 to the 4 times 2 power equals 3 to the 8th power. The base stays the same, multiply the exponents. Base stays the same, multiply the exponents when you've got parentheses. This becomes v to the 3 times 5 power equals v to the 15th power. Right down here we've got 2 to the, and doesn't matter that it's a number as a base, doesn't matter that's a number as the base. The base stays the same, and all we do is multiply the exponents. 8 times 10 is our exponent equals 2 to the 80th power, pretty big number. This one is like we did before, x to the 2 times 3 power equals x to the 6th power. And like I recommended, right down here is the x squared cubed, or you can also use the x cubed squared to get to the same idea. And going through the longhand steps, kind of like up here, might be a good mnemonic device to say, how do I do that? All right, write down the questions that you have for your homework. Bring them into class, and we'll go through them.